Imagine waking up one morning to find that most people around you have stopped asking why. The world hums louder every year. Faster feeds, non-stop updates, endless commentary. And somewhere between the noise and the scroll, our capacity to question has thinned. What happens when curiosity gives way to comfort? When reflection is traded for quick reactions? When reasoning is replaced by viral consensus? Today we'll trace how critical thinking slipped away, why that loss matters, and, most importantly, what it takes to reclaim a mind that thinks for itself. This is not a rant. It's an invitation to look clearly, to think bravely, and to act with intellectual honesty. If you value truth more than applause, pause the video, subscribe, and leave a note below. Your thoughts matter. Now let's begin. Thinking well is hard. Society increasingly rewards speed and certainty, not nuance. The systems that shape our attention, classrooms, newsrooms, and algorithms, favor simple answers and quick engagement. That's not an accident. It's a design choice. Institutions that ought to foster inquiry often prioritize conformity. Media magnifies outrage because outrage clicks. Social platforms optimize for attention, not accuracy. Over time, thoughtful pause becomes maladaptive. Speaking loudly and immediately is the skill that gets rewarded. So critical thought isn't merely neglected. It's actively squeezed out by incentives that prize immediacy and consensus. One root of this decline is information overload. Our brains evolved for slower, sparser environments. Now we're showered with a flood of facts, frames, ads, and arguments. When input exceeds capacity, cognition takes shortcuts. We rely on heuristics, mental rules that save effort but cost truth. We look for social proof, likes, shares, endorsements, as a substitute for verification. Familiarity feels like truth. Repetition feels like evidence. And when thinking demands time, our default is to imitate rather than investigate. This is not about intelligence. Brilliant people fall for these traps because the mind seeks efficiency. The question is whether we notice those tendencies and correct for them. There's another casualty: deep reading and sustained attention. The ability to engage with long arguments, to hold complexity in mind, to sit with an idea until it yields. These are essential to critical thought. Digital habits train us to skim. We flit between fragments, losing the muscle of concentrated scrutiny. Without depth, we mistake slogans for understanding and soundbites for insight. That's why cultivating focus is a moral act. It protects the conditions in which genuine thought can occur. But the decline is not only cognitive, it's emotional. Thinking can be disquieting. To question a belief is to risk identity, status, and social belonging. Many of us have learned to treat ideas as tribal badges. Doubting them feels like betrayal. So instead of testing beliefs, we defend them. We prefer the comfort of certainty to the vulnerability of uncertainty. This emotional economy is fertile ground for manipulation. If your convictions are your comfort, someone who controls your beliefs controls your peace. Knowing how the mind is allows others to exploit it. Simplify complex issues into binaries. Trigger fear or anger to shut down deliberation. Repeat a simple narrative until it feels true. These tactics are staples of political campaigns, advertising, and sensational media. Confirmation bias locks us in. Once we accept a narrative, our brain's job becomes defending it. We curate information to support what we already believe. This self-reinforcing loop creates communities of certainty that are often impermeable to evidence. History shows that intellectual progress rarely came from consensus. The thinkers who shifted paradigms, scientists, philosophers, activists, endured ridicule and hostility. They persisted not because they loved conflict, but because they loved truth more than comfort. To think against the current usually costs you something: social ease, professional advantage, emotional certainty. But it also yields the most valuable goods: clarity, autonomy, and moral integrity. So what can we do? Rebuilding a thinking life is practical and cumulative. Here are concrete habits to cultivate. Slow down. Build deliberate spaces free of distraction. Read longer essays and books. Let ideas breathe. A metacognition. Ask how you are thinking. What assumptions guide you? Where are you seeking validation rather than truth? Seek serious disagreement. Treat opposing arguments as teachers, not enemies. Practice listening to understand. Value process over victory. Aim to refine beliefs, not to win debates. Limit attention-hungry platforms. Set friction for mindless scrolling. Use tools that favor depth. Train emotional tolerance. Accept uncertainty as an opportunity, not a threat. These aren't grand gestures. They are daily disciplines that reshape how your mind works. Perhaps the deepest step is detaching identity from ideas. If your sense of self depends on always being right, you'll avoid inquiry. But if identity rests on a willingness to learn, then doubt becomes a virtue, not a weakness. Think of intellectual humility as moral courage, the capacity to revise your map when new territory appears. It's not self-effacement, it's growth. When individuals reclaim questioning, the effects ripple outward. Communities become less reactive and more deliberative. Institutions face healthier critique. Public discourse shifts from performance to problem-solving. This is not utopian. People will still disagree. But disagreement grounded in curiosity and charity is far more productive than disagreement grounded in identity and outrage. The final, most important truth is simple. Thinking is a practice, a responsibility, and a form of freedom. It asks us to prefer truth over comfort, complexity over ease, learning over applause. It asks us to be brave enough to be wrong, humble enough to change, and persistent enough to do the slow work. If you want to make a difference, begin with the smallest act. Pause before you share, read before you judge, and ask better questions. Each act of genuine inquiry is a small rebellion against the easy consensus. If this resonated, share it with someone who values thought more than trends. Comment below with one belief you're willing to examine this week. Start that inner conversation. Join the quiet movement that chooses clarity over clamor. Stay curious. Stay courageous. Keep thinking. Thanks for watching.